Okay, bright sun is shining. And they're starting with a speech by Obama.
Which means it's using ethos to kind of back up their points.
That is a prerequisite for prosperity. It is an obligation.
So again, it's ethos where it's like relatable. They're in a teen bedroom.
Everything's really sunlit and backlit. Everything's very much bright. It's all clean lines. It's kind of setting this tone of, everything's bright, everything's modern. Everything's very straight.
We have the Khan Academy, the director of it, so that kind of gives us credibility to the documentary.
More ethos.
Do me 17 times tables.
All of the interviewers are not looking directly into the camera, it's more conversational.
They've got this kind of cool modern-ish music.
All the technology here, it looks like a student's desk. It's something that the viewer can relate to
but
well.
it's kind of unorthodox with like the headphones and all the game thing.
As we teach it today, is an
All the modern buildings are very like modern and clean.
Very aesthetically pleasing.
Reading, writing,
It's setting the tone for the documentary.
Core of whose education? Core of the military.
Everybody that's interviewed is kind of on eye level. They've got the chest out, kind of giving them a very modern.
The shots now, the old movie shots, kind of contradict or contrast the previous ones. Makes the old technology look very out of date by using even more out of date shots. All of the interviewers seem very casual in the way they're talking, like it's just a conversation they're having with the viewer.
The music cuts out for that, and then we suddenly cut to Khan Academy. The last guy was talking about how arithmetic might become a sport, and now here we are with a man who teaches arithmetic for his entire life and kind of makes it fun.
And Khan Academy is something probably a lot of students have experience with.
Or it could be used in the classroom so that every student can work at their own pace. My videos are definitely not the state of the current art, right? They're a few steps behind that. But,
not looking at the camera here again, it kind of takes the viewer right into it. It makes it feel less like a documentary, more real.
In the current existing model, and just use
again, everything is very light and bright and clean.
But they're not changing the content fundamentally. The content's really interesting.
I'd like to bring up this point of not changing the content. And it's a very good point, but it's also making it interesting, especially as he's showing his videos, which are a lot of students nowadays do use and find that they're helpful because they explain it in a different way.
And here we have the shots of New York, which is kind of like the epitome of the modern city and like moving forward thinkers. And we have the video games, how kids are enjoying them, but also how it's an engaging tool.
But they're only showing good scenes of video games, so it's kind of a bit of a biased show of video games, because students aren't using video games like this. They're sitting at home in their room and playing 14 hours of video games a day, and violent tendencies come out of video games. They're playing very violent video games.
But then on the other hand, they're showing kind of the potential that video games have, what video games could be, how they could change the system by engaging students. Rather than passive learning, it's an active kind of learning.
That's one of the reasons why students are so disengaged. In the video game world, it's all about exploration. You solve a problem when you bump into it, and in fact, that provides the relevance for solving the problem.
And that's a really big point, is the relevance of learning.
And then here we're cutting from those very high-tech kind of posh, lots of computer games into this, kind of the slums of India.
And then here we have the forced perspective on the person speaking, and the very modern, again, with contrasting with the very cramped and kind of rubble-strewn streets.
It really helps to prove their point of, any kid can learn no matter where they are or what they are, and it just has to be self-motivated by curiosity and, the kid casually stepping up and cautiously starting to play with it, and suddenly all the friends come and crowd around.
And it's the swarming, it's like all these people, young and old, and big crowds are all so drawn to this engaging technology. No matter if they've never seen it before, they don't know how to use it, they're kind of just learning. And then it jumps right back into the modern narrator.
Children can teach themselves almost anything if given the internet
Now we're seeing a big transition between these young, poor kids who are playing, and now we've got the most posh kids we've seen yet, kind of a private school.
The ties and sweaters, and they're all using the same technology.
And they're swarming around it and enjoying it, but, you know, the potential is there.
So here we have more cityscapes, kind of an open door, inviting it into the learning, a very like aesthetically pleasing place with the very nice background setting and the organized
We've got
classroom.
young kids now, so this is representing kind of a different sector of learning, and you know, we've had many different age ranges. We have lots of different ethnicities of kids, which appeals to a wider audience.
They seem to be trying to cover all the demographics of what the technology can touch.
And now here we have university students, although it's kind of, they're going from these young kids that could become these doctors that are working on a cadaver. It's very much kind of raising them up, and this is what our children will become with technology.
This part, especially here, looks a bit staged, where they're all kind of crowded around the iPad and like
smiling and nodding at
and it's
each
all
other.
very beautifully lit and everything.
And like they're going to be using an iPad with their gloved hands while they're performing a surgery, like.
And then we jump right back into the little kids, contrasting how technology can be sophisticated, but then it also can be
Everyone
juvenile.
wants their kid to grow up to be a doctor.
So I guess that also brings us back to the target audience, which is probably mostly parents. Also, I guess students.
It's very white and modern, and everything's these clean lines, and it's very futuristic, everything they're kind of showing. It almost seems like it's like a utopian society. But at this point, I know you can't necessarily hear, but they're making some very big accusations that they're starting to get into, and they're kind of washing it over as making it seem like this big utopian society.
And here they have kids' opinions, but they also use, I mean, it's only 2 of the kids' opinions, and they're similar age, they're probably in the same class. It's not really a very wide perspective for us to see the youth demographic. That was really the only time kids ever spoke about technology, and it was only for a brief few seconds.
The documentary seemed to start out a lot humbler, and now it's kind of getting into almost a bit hoity-toity. You know, everybody's very posh, very white collar.
The music is swelling. It's beautiful,
You've
like
got,
campuses and the
beautiful
lights.
green trees and the sun shining through the trees, like so much
prosperity,
symbolism.
and
It's like propaganda.
Yeah, it seems very utopian with the beautiful light and the beautiful campus, and it seems like an advertisement almost.
And like they're saying some very accusatory things about the schooling system,
Which,
but they're
in
putting it
contrast with the beautiful sceneries almost.
Yeah, it's making it kind of try to hide what their words are actually saying and make you think that you want it because of you've got these clean lines. Now they're talking about what the school system is now, and they're showing a hallway, and they're showing a classroom that is in the lower class. It's very rigid. It's poor-looking kids.
And then, so it's kind of contrasting that beautiful utopian, what it could be with technology, what humanity could be if we were moving forward, versus what we are now. We're kind of cramped and using these tools. And there's actually a point where they're saying some and here they're just filing into a box.
In all gray, like it looks like a prison cell. And like photocopies, like they all looked very similar. Take note now of all of the camera angles they're using on the interviewees.
Especially here, he's talking about how the only thing that's being taught in school now is to be submissive and to be quiet, which is a very large accusation to be making.
We're bringing back these 2 same boys as well. Now we have a very different shot on the interviewee. It's very up close and personal. It creates really intimate and connects you with what he's saying, as opposed to all of the past things.
And now all the cognitive scientists are coming back and saying, what did you do? Because that's actually one of the most motivating,
so they're talking about
media
the video games and how it's just not, you know, it's not staged, it's not planned that way, it just works, and that's kind of, again, they're starting to bring back everything they've kind of said before. They're creating trust.
And then now we're back to the girl, back using her technology again. Here is looking over her shoulder, so she's kind of any woman using the technology for real purposes.
All shots are kind of moving and active, and we're seeing all of the people who've talked. We're seeing all of these people looking confident, but passively confident, not in-your-face confident.
All these people who have supported the message that they're being talked about.
And here's our kid from the beginning, so kind of almost bringing the entire thing full circle.
And the two kids back again on their computers again.
And we've got our older woman, so we've got kind of the 3 generations.
Kind of progression of how technology influences us through all stages of our lives.
And that curriculum needs to have only 3 things.
And here he's talking about how there are certain aspects that humans will always need to learn for right now, and how technology teaches all of these things, but there are certain things that in the past we don't need to know anymore. He's comparing it to how we used to need to know how to ride a horse. We don't need to do that anymore.
Outdated skill. This is the skill that will replace it.
Okay, so much pathos here. We've got a kid sitting on his shoulders, you know, telling
It's a very
parents,
trusting shot.
your child is on your shoulders, like, we need to give them a better future.
You're raising
We've
him
got,
up.
like, an adorable, innocent little kid here. Like, how can you not feel something? And they're very clearly playing at that to get you into your opinion. Like, why would
You're
you not do
looking at the
everything?
future. You're
For this
looking at
little
the future
kid.
of your kids. You're looking at the future of future generations.
He's very innocent. There's lots of light shining over across him. But interestingly enough, we have this kid who's was running through nature,
Being
and yet,
free, very childlike, kind of experiencing things.
and then they want him to only use technology, as you'll see in the shot coming up.
They're kind of,
He's suddenly on
Yeah.
this technology,
and
they
it's
kind of
kind
want
of
him
like,
out of that.
it's like they're almost, it's kind of contradictory to what they're saying, because they want to use technology to bring people outside of themselves and outside into the world, and yet now instead of he being on a beach, he's on his iPad.
It's not very effective. And then they suddenly have the music hit.
And
To
yet
really
that is
bring
their
it
ending shot.
And then just black. Overall, I mean, they proved their point fairly well. All of their shots kind of did play to what they were saying. The music was
It
very
was a
effective.
well-used documentary.
It's
It
well
was a bit dramatic at points, but
Mhm. It was very dramatic, but to be fair, what they were saying
was accurate. Although
accurate
sometimes it
with
was a
what they
bit
were-
extreme.
Oh, it was very extreme, but they did a very good job of, when they were saying dramatic things, showing the dramatic shots to really support their point, so that you would feel more connected to it, and it would appeal to the audience. At the end, we can talk.